guys, it's Cece, and today I'm here to do a book haul. The last book haul that I did was just before Christmas, and I have accumulated a lot of books since then, so I wanted to talk about all of them. I have these split up into some separate piles. I have a couple of books that I got for Christmas, a few that I purchased myself, a couple from subscription boxes, and then a few from publishing companies that have sent me books. So, with all that in mind, we're gonna go through these kind of by section in how I acquired them, and we're gonna talk about the couple of things I got for Christmas first. If you have already seen my Christmas haul, you've already heard about these books, but it's gonna be real fast. I'm just gonna talk about them, and then we can move on to the other books that I haven't talked about yet. So the first book that I'm gonna talk about that I got for Christmas is The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin. This was a gift from my uncle. He absolutely loves Ursula K. Le Guin, has been trying to get me to read some of her books for most of my life, and I really think that he hit the nail on the head with this one. I'm very excited to read it. And this is about a planet called Winter where there is no gender, and the people who live on this planet become male or female depending on the mating cycle. An ethnologist has been sent to this planet to learn more about this society, and that's kind of all I know. Possibly there's a love story, but mostly I think it is a fantasy book that's really getting into the concept of gender, how we construct it. It's pretty famous reading as far as like feminist fantasy, and I've heard really, really good things about it. Ursula K. Le Guin did just recently die, and I was already planning on reading this book pretty soon, but I think it bumped it up a little higher on my list because she has written so many incredible books, and I would really like the chance to read one of her books soon, especially knowing that she's passed recently. So this was a gift from my uncle. I'm really excited to read it. Yeah. And the other thing I got for Christmas was a gift from my mom, and that is the Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. I read these when I was a kid with my mom. We read them together and I loved them. And we have only ever had editions that were in chronological order instead of publication order. C.S. Lewis originally released the books in this order with Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe first, and then starting in the 1990s, I think, they switched so that they would only ever be published in chronological order, which actually puts The Magician's Nephew first instead of second to last, and I hate that. I read them originally in publication order, and that order has a near and dear spot in my heart, so I asked my mom to track down a set of these books in publication order, and she did. So these editions were published in 1980. I have had a lot of people come to me and tell me that they remember these like from their childhoods or from the library when they were kids. I love them. I think that they have beautiful covers. So we have The Last Battle, The Magician's Nephew, The Horse and His Boy, The Silver Chair, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, which is my favorite book in the series, Prince Caspian, and of course, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I love these editions. I'm so glad my mom got them for me, and I'm thinking I really need to do a reread of this series as an older individual. Not sure when it's gonna happen, but now that I have these books, it's definitely going to be a lot sooner than it was. Next, I'm going to talk about 3 books that have been sent to me in subscription boxes, and the first of those is Foolish Hearts by Emma Mills. I've already talked about this book a bunch. If you want to hear more of my thoughts on it, I just talked about it near the end of my January wrap-up. Go check that out. I talked about how wonderful this book is. This is a YA contemporary about a girl named Claudia who overhears the breakup of the it couple at her school, Paige and Iris. This means that Iris has a lot of resentment towards Claudia. They do not get along anymore, and then after they mess up a school project, they wind up being thrown together into the school's production of A Midsummer Night's Dream. It's a wonderful book about female friendship. It's like one of the best books I've ever read with female friendship. It's hilarious and wonderful. It has a really good YA family, which I think that there's sometimes a really high chance of the family kind of being ignored in YA Contemporary, and this does a really good job. This came in the December Owl Crate box, and this is the Owl Crate exclusive cover. I'm so glad that they sent it along. I think I might have put off reading this if I had, and I'm glad that I didn't do that because it was really wonderful. The next 2 books are from the 2 most recent Page Habit boxes, so this one is from the December box, and it is The 3 Daughters of Eve by Elif Shafak. This book follows Peri, a wealthy Turkish woman, as she is attending a party. It's set over remember one evening in Istanbul where all of these different conflicting ideas are kind of coming together at this party. Meanwhile, terrorist attacks are happening across the city and they're kind of moving in closer. At the same time, Perry can't help but think about her time in Oxford. There, she met two women who became her best friends. Shirin, who was an Iranian girl, and Mona, who was an Egyptian American, and they had all of these debates about Islam and feminism, and they had this really strong connection with one of their professors. So Perry is sort of experiencing this party, but also can't help but reflect on the past and her time with these other women. It sounds like an absolutely brilliant book that I can't wait to read. Plus, this came from Page Habit, which means that it came with these little post-it notes. They are annotations that were done by the author, so as you go through, you kind of get notes as to what the author was thinking, or, you know, whatever is kind of was going on in her head. So I'm really, really excited about this one. I think it's going to be beautiful. And in my most recent Page Habit box, I got The Immortalists by Chloe Benjamin. This is also a book that came from the literary fiction box, and this is also one that, of course, comes annotated. That's what Page Habit does. But this one is about 4 siblings. It starts in 1969, and it is about these siblings who find out the exact date of their death, which is an event that kind of shapes the next 5 decades of their lives. Getting wonderful early reviews. I have been super highly anticipating it. Like, if you want to know how excited I was, go watch that unboxing. I go real hard when I figure out what book this is in that unboxing, just because I'm so excited. Plus, look at this book with the little, like, the shiny dots on the cover that kind of appear when you turn it towards the light. It's gorgeous. I switched to the literary fiction box of Page Habit in December, and I think it's been a really good move because both of the books I've received from that box are ones that I have wanted to read incredibly badly and that I'm really excited about. Next, I want to talk about my little stack of books that are all ones I purchased myself. First of all, we have Eldest by Christopher Paolini. So, I've obviously read Eldest. I have read the entire Inheritance cycle multiple times, and this is the second book in that series. But my copies of these books, every single one has been in a different edition and has been a different size, so I've been trying really hard to find matching editions so that my series looks less awful on my shelves. I originally had a mass market paperback of Eldest, and I finally got one that's just a little bit bigger, a little sturdier to match my edition of Brissinger. The Inheritance cycle is a really good fantasy series that I loved when I was a kid, about a boy who finds out he is a dragon rider. I love them. I know that there are some complaints about them being somewhat generic, but I mean, I read them when I was 13 originally, and they just have a really special place in my heart, so yeah, that's why I got Eldest. Another book that I had already read before that I wanted my own physical copy of was Girls Made of Snow and Glass by Melissa Bashardoust. I got an early e-copy of this book that I read back over last summer, and I absolutely loved this book. I thought it was beautiful, so I wanted to be able to own a physical copy of it. This was a retelling of Snow White and her stepmother, but in a way that looks way more complexly at their relationship as women. It's sort of being sold as a feminist take on Snow White. Instead of being about hatred between these two women, it becomes more about how the men in their lives have forced them into this position, have tried to make them just perfect images of who they wish these women could be, and how Lynette and her stepmother Mina try to break free of those expectations, make their own lives and their own stories. It's really, really wonderful. Also, Lynette, the Snow White character, is queer and has a romance with another lady. It's just a gorgeous book, and this cover with the, like, ice coming out from the bottom is one that I've been obsessed with since it was first released. And even under the cover, it has, like, a really simple design, but I'm really into it. I think this is a beautiful book, which is why I bought it. If you watched my most recent TBR video, you also know that I got The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid, jumping right on this train of everyone suddenly buying and loving this book. I'm gonna be reading it hopefully soon. I'm currently reading Crooked Kingdom, but as soon as I finish it, this should be next. This is about an aging Hollywood icon named Evelyn Hugo. She's been very secretive about her life, but now she finally feels like it's time to come forward and talk about it. So she hires someone to write her story, but it's sort of this unknown magazine writer who doesn't really know why she's being drawn in. But regardless, she goes and she gets to hear the very long life of Evelyn Hugo, and this book Everyone is talking about how much they love this book. The premise reminds me incredibly strongly of The 13th Tale, which is one of my favorite books of all time. Just the concept of an aging woman coming forward to tell her story to a younger person who doesn't really know why they're there. That's also the plot of The 13th Tale, and that concept just really intrigues me. I'm really, really excited about this book, and it's a beautiful green cover. And the final book that I bought for myself is the Scorpio Races by Maggie Stiefvater. I actually just purchased this book yesterday. So the Scorpio Races is one of the books on my top 12 to read in 2018 TBR, which is why I decided to pick it up. Also, because I have been missing Maggie Stiefvater's words, and I don't know when we're gonna get the Dreamer trilogy, so I need some other way to consume the things that she's written. We do get the Opal short story in like 2 weeks, and I am dying. I can buy it on Kindle for $1. I'm gonna read it 100 times. But anyway, the Scorpio Races. I don't know a ton about this book. It has kind of a weird description that at the beginning of November, there is this race, the Scorpio Races, where people ride water horses. So the riders have to like keep hold of their water horses until they reach the finish line, hopefully. This is a thing where a lot of people die. It's really serious. And then it's about two main characters. There is Sean, who is the returning champion, and then there's Puck, and she is going to become the first girl to ever race in the Scorpio Races. This concept reminds me a little bit of The Long Walk by Stephen King, but it's gonna be beautiful. I've loved pretty much everything I've read by Maggie Stiefvater. Yes, even the Wolves of Mercy Falls series. Probably wouldn't love it if I read it now, but I loved it when I was younger. So, new Maggie Stiefvater to read, and I'm really excited about it. And my final stack of books is going to be all of the books that I've received from publishing companies in the past couple of months. The first one I want to talk about is Snow Sisters, and this is by Tom Wilinsky and Jen Sternick. This was sent along by Duet. Yes, by Duet Press. This comes out very soon on February 15th, and Duet is an imprint that publishes queer books by queer authors. That's why I know who they are. I absolutely love Duet. This is about two girls, Soph and Tess, who end up being thrown together as roommates at a teen writers conference. Soph goes to a rich private school in Manhattan, and Tess goes to a public school and lives on a dairy farm. In general, it seems like a book about writing, about friendship, and there are definitely going to be queer elements to this story. Absolutely. I don't know what the element is, but I am really excited to read this one. Plus, I love when books are pink. Pink is a color that is rarely used, and it just makes me really happy when I get to hold a very, very pink book in my hands. So thank you to Duet for sending this along. It was a total surprise, but I'm excited to see what happens inside. I also have an arc that I requested, and that is Furyborn by Claire Legrand, and the packaging for this arc was incredible. I did an unboxing for it on my Instagram story, and it was one of the most beautifully wrapped arcs I've ever received. It was fabulous. I requested this book because it is one of my most anticipated books of the entire year. This comes out on May 22nd, 2018, so you can look forward to it then. This is about two women who live centuries apart. The first is Riel, who reveals a power within herself when she saves her best friend. She reveals that she controls all 7 types of magic, and only 2 prophesied queens should be able to hold this power. So there's the Queen of Light and Salvation and the Queen of Blood and Destruction, but there's no way of telling which one Riel is. 1,000 years later, there is a girl named Eliana, and when the Undying Empire conquered her kingdom, she wound up turning to violence in order to protect herself, her family, and then countless women vanished from her city, including her mother, and Eliana has to figure out how to rescue them. So this is a story about 2 prophesied queens, 2 women living centuries apart, and how their stories intersect. I've heard brilliant, brilliant things about it, and I cannot wait to read this book. Thank you so much to Source Books for sending this to me. I just feel like this book is going to be brilliant, and I'm really excited. From Simon & Schuster, I have American Panda by Gloria Chao. This book is about Mei Lu, who is starting her freshman year at MIT. She is Taiwanese, and her family has a lot of expectations of her, but the longer Mei is at school, the more she realizes that she doesn't want any of the things her family wants from her, and then she winds up reconnecting to her brother, who has been estranged from their family for dating the wrong woman. This has been so hyped. I think it's going to be really cute, but also deal with some intense family issues, and I'm always interested in YA set in college. I think that it is a little subset of YA that's slowly growing, and I'm thrilled that Simon & Schuster sent me this book so that I can check it out. The next couple of books I have are both sort of nonfiction compilation books. So the first of those is Princesses Behaving Badly, and this is by Linda Rodriguez McRobbie. This is a collection of stories about princesses in the past who were not the princesses we've been told about in Disney stories and in fairy tales. They are princesses who had their own stories and their own narratives, and this is just kind of bringing those narratives to the forefront and talking about the more complex lives of princesses. This was sent to me by Quirk Books, who asked if I would like to read it for review, and I readily agreed. It's got a gorgeous cover. This also has like these beautiful end pages, which I don't think that paperback books get very often, and I am absolutely thrilled to read this book. I think it's going to be fantastic. In the same vein as Princesses Behaving Badly, I also have Bygone Badass Broads, 52 Forgotten Women Who Changed the World by Mackenzi Lee. This book is being released on February 27th, and it is about women in history and their badass stories. Basically, and it explains all of this in the preface, Mackenzi Lee was this frustrated history major who wanted to unearth stories of badass women that she wasn't being taught about, especially women who were non-white, non-Western, non-straight. She wanted something beyond the token handful that you kind of get to learn a little bit about, but mostly it's about men. So she created this book of 52 women who get forgotten, who have stories that are worth telling. It's going to have these gorgeous illustrations of all of the women as it tells their story. Thank you so much, Abrams, for sending this book to me. I am going to be reading it before the end of February. This was also part of my February TBR, and I'm thrilled. I really loved Mackenzi Lee's Bygone Badass Broad series on Twitter, so I'm excited it's gotten turned into a book. I think it's going to be brilliant. And that is it. Those are all of the books that I have acquired in the last couple of months. Are there any I talked about that you've read that you really loved, really hated? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!